welcome along to the Weather Studio Live. I'm Alex Deakin.
And I'm Aidan McGivern.
And we are live from Met Office headquarters here in Exeter in Devon. Loads of people already getting in touch, so thank you very much for that. We've had lots of questions already, but we also had lots of questions from last week's live. So if you're not watching it live, doesn't matter, you can still ask us questions, put in comments, questions, suggestions, anything you like. We do try and read them all, and we do try and respond to as many as possible. We've got so many, it's hard to get through it all, isn't it? If you could hit the thumbs up button, that would be doing us a big favour. Do that now, that would be fantastic. And if you haven't already subscribed to our YouTube channel, well, you really should, and I would highly recommend it, so that would be great as well. In this week's live, usual stuff, talk about what we've been doing, talk about what's coming up. There's been plenty going on, hasn't there?
Plus a quiz.
Oh, don't forget the quiz. You're looking forward to that, aren't you?
I am. It's been a few weeks, might be rusty. We'll see.
We will see. We will see. But a quiz that you can get involved with as well. So yeah, lots to talk about weather-wise. What have you been up to this week there?
Well, first week back at work since the break. I was lucky to get some annual leave over Christmas.
Very lucky.
Of course, our colleagues, presenters, Alex and Honor were covering things here and did a marvellous job. We also had meteorologists upstairs working flat out 24/7 over Christmas. But I was lucky that I had some time off, and so Monday I was back into it, excited to be back because of course there's been lots of weather to talk about, and I had some new toys to play with as well. So if you've not watched this week's deep dive and you're into watching some new technology and new science and so on, and you've got an hour to spare, who hasn't? Friday night viewing sorted. That's this week's deep dive, where I unveiled a new tool for forecasting medium range weather, and I'll be looking at that in a short while in this live as well. Yeah,
we'll be showing that in a bit. You don't have to watch the full hour because the first 20 minutes to talk about this week's weather, which has already happened. So, but we'll talk more about that later. But very exciting stuff. You've been working hard on those graphics, and they do look fab. So yeah, that is very exciting. I used them a little bit in the 10-day trend as well, so that was good for me to use them as well. So yes, lots of exciting things. Obviously, we've been talking about the snow. It's been kind of a bit on and off. We had that tricky wave across the south Wednesday, and it brought some snow down here where we are in Devon. And caused a few issues. There was an amber warning in place as well. So yeah, lots to talk about the weather from this week. But let's look back at a couple of questions from last week. I mean, there weren't that many questions that came in. Mostly it was just gushing praise for last week's live for Alex and Honor. So
yeah,
I had to flick through all of those comments.
Difficult
so,
to.
We've got a tough act to follow. We've got a very tough act to follow. But there was a couple of questions. Margaret Madden 5443, does freezing rain, because we talked a bit about freezing rain in the forecast recently, make what's called black ice?
Yeah. Yes is the short answer.
Is the short answer to that, yes. I mean, black ice is it's a kind of, it just means basically clear ice that's formed on roads and pavements, so you can't see it, and because roads and pavements are black, that's all it means. It's very dangerous. Freezing rain does cause black ice. Freezing rain is where rain is falling through part of the atmosphere at the bottom of the atmosphere that's below freezing, but it doesn't have time to refreeze and form back into snow. So it's super cooled. It's water, it's liquid water, but it's below freezing temperature. And as soon as then it hits the surface, it freezes. And it can be very dangerous, and it can cause black ice. But black ice can also be caused just by rain falling onto frozen surfaces, which is a subtle difference between. So black ice is caused by freezing rain, but black ice can also just be caused by normal rain falling
or wet surfaces that then freeze
over as well,
or seepage from very wet ground that seeps out when it's below freezing. So yeah, black ice often happens in this country because of those reasons. Freezing rain has been an issue in the US this week as well. Yeah, it's quite rare in the UK. We don't see it that often, but we did get some genuine freezing rain last week, and yeah, it's much more common in the United States. Matthew Child asked, can you explain why in Ashford in Kent the temperature on Saturday and Sunday remained at 1 degree Celsius most of the day and into the night, but the initial rain that fell was rain and then turned into snow? If it's a warm front, it should turn to snow to rain, surely, he's asking. And we've had another question on a similar theme already this week, in this week's live as well, which is about, and it's basically about something you talked about, how the intensity of precipitation, when it's snowing on the cusp, like it was earlier this week, how snow can turn to rain and rain can turn to snow. It's from Olaz Nog
42A? Because you mentioned something in the deep dive.
Yeah, and they said that they remember from school that condensation released latent heat. And that's true. Condensation does release latent heat, so it releases heat energy back into the atmosphere. But what's happening when precipitation is falling through the atmosphere is that part of it's evaporating, it's falling through the atmosphere, so you get evaporative cooling where latent heat is being taken from the atmosphere to aid with that evaporative process. And that then lowers the temperature. So it's that evaporative cooling that leads to the air temperature getting lower and leads to rain often turning to snow as the rain gets heavier, or prolonged rain. And we saw that in Devon. It started as rain, then turned to sleet, and as it got heavier, eventually it ended up being snow and started settling, and then it lost its intensity and turned back to rain.
Yeah. So it's all about as the snow is falling through. It starts off as snow, it melts, and that takes energy to melt the snow to turn it to rain. So it takes energy, so it takes heat out. So it then cools. So then it stays as snow for longer and longer, and eventually that snow can get down to the ground. So I hope that clears that up. But thank you for those questions. Really good stuff coming in. We've had a question about La Nina, with it being La Nina, Simeon T, with it being a La Nina year, what's happened to us for getting another beast? What's the chance of getting beast from the east like we saw a few years ago? Well, we're not actually in La Nina. It's still neutral. Now, a lot of the signs and models are suggesting towards a weak La Nina. It was El Nino, of course, for the past couple of years. So we're not actually in a La Nina year, but that is also potentially linked to what's going on in California as things have come out of El Nino. So we can talk about that briefly. La Nina does mean it's drier than usual in California, and we've seen a very dry winter, only a few millimetres of rain falling across Los Angeles, so it's been drier than usual. And after El Nino, which brings a wetter spell, so the last couple of years have been wetter, which allows more vegetation to grow. So yeah, conditions are just perfect for the horrific scenes we've seen in Los Angeles with those wildfires. We've had a high growing season, then we've had a very dry winter. We've also had the Santa Ana winds, which are caused by high pressure out in the Pacific. It's a general weather pattern you often get set up there. High pressure out in the Pacific and then low pressure in the United States, and draws down these often cold but very dry winds, and they blow strongly as they have been. And we've just had that low pressure generating a particularly strong Santa Ana wind over the past few days, and it's likely, although not as strong, to continue, unfortunately.
Yeah, those winds don't cause the fires in the first place, but they fan the flames and spread it so much more than you'd get if you didn't have the Santa Ana winds as well. And just on the beast from the east thing, La Nina. La Nina is just one of many factors that influences the UK's winter weather. Of course, there are lots of factors, and what you can see in the UK's winter weather is colder, more blocked patterns at the start of winter, and then more of a westerly influence at the end of winter. That doesn't rule out a beast from the east scenario. Of course, the beast from the east was it was a very extreme event, and certainly doesn't happen every year, or indeed most years, on that scale. And so it's, first of all, unlikely each winter. But for the rest of this winter, what with it being slightly more likely, if you were in a proper La Nina situation, and it's very marginal, then you'd expect a greater likelihood of westerlies rather than easterlies. But it doesn't rule out, there are lots of factors involved, of course, with the UK's winter weather.
It was Gordy B. Gordon, who asked about the phenomenon of the strong winds in California as well. So thank you for that question. So it's just a classic setup. That's what you often get with the high pressure and the low pressure and the strong winds from the north. Kay is also asking a bit about the United States. Will the snowy weather they're having in the USA right now eventually get to the USA? It doesn't really work like that, Kay, unfortunately. We are going to see, we have seen the snowstorm across eastern parts of the United States. A big contrast between east and west. Big dip in the jet stream. That is, in fact, now amplifying across the UK and means that we're going to have more settled weather next week more than anything. So yeah, we don't just get what's in the United States. It doesn't just come across the Atlantic because there's a big body of water that changes things. There can be links sometime, but the link this time is actually generating a push to the north of the jet stream and actually bringing in high pressure for most places next week. But thank you for that question. shall we take a look at what's been happening this week? We've
had some great pictures. Great pictures coming.
Keep your questions coming in and keep your feedback coming in as well. And do hit that like button as well on the bottom. That would be really useful. But yeah, let's have a quick look at what's been going on this week, because it has been a really interesting week of weather. Yeah,
let's start in the south. Actually, we've had some lovely pictures from Devon. This was earlier in the week. Snowbow in Exeter. And snowbow, of course, caused similar to rainbows. You've got the snow refracting the light from the sun and projecting this lovely image across the sky. And likewise in Devon, a view of Dartmoor. This was a couple of days ago after the system moved up across the south of the UK. Of course, it brought some very heavy snow across Dartmoor, much less snow at lower levels.
You can see the snow line there, kind of beautiful.
Yeah. Further north, much further north, in fact, Inverness, of course, has had a lot more snow than in the south of the UK. A whole week of snow piling up across northern Scotland. Lovely picture there from Twitter by Cloudy Mama. And where was this one again? Pennines, of course, has seen a decent snow covering this week. Sheep huddled together there for warmth. And check this out. Lovely scene there from Shropshire, taken by this chap on blue sky. And finally, I think I've covered all the pictures there. No, one more to go. Liam James, Cumbria, of course, has had a lot of snow as well. Beautiful scenes there. And our very own Rich, one of our talented video editors and camera people, he shot this drone footage.
Was he flying?
He is Superman. He's
very talented. I didn't realise he could fly. That's impressive.
Yeah, beautiful. That's near Axminster, I think, in Devon. So lovely. Looks like Canada. But yeah, it's staying cold for the time being. It is staying cold. Here you can see the cold air across the UK, just to give you a preview of what's happening as we start the weekend. That cold air in place, high pressure, light winds, much less precipitation falling, but with clear skies. We're going to have a very cold night tonight. In fact, it's likely in many places to be the coldest night of this spell, and certainly for the absolute UK minimum temperature, it's likely to be the coldest of this spell. Although what you can see there is some milder air coming into the west, less cold in the western part of the UK compared with the last few days. And that milder air, as I'll explain in a moment, is eventually going to affect all parts by the start of next week, but with varying times in terms of its onset. Here's the maximum temperature over the next few days, just a glance, and you can see at best 0 to 3 Celsius today, similar on Saturday, but you can see in those western parts, Northern Ireland, southwest England, West Wales, 6 to 8 Celsius. And then slowly turning milder there as we go into Sunday. Certainly for northern parts of the UK, it's the north where we'll see the milder air arrive first. Further south and east, still 3 or 4 Celsius. By Monday, 5, 6 Celsius, so things are trending upwards across the UK. Double figures, temperatures into the teens. Now, what we saw last night was a temperature before 9 a.m. of minus 14.4 Celsius at Altnahara in the Northwest Highlands. And after 9 a.m. that temperature continued to drop down to minus 14.6. Why is that important? For climate reporting purposes, the minimum temperature from last night will officially be recorded up to 9 a.m. So last night's official minimum was minus 14.4 Celsius. But for most people, you can consider that the temperature got down to minus 14.6 this morning in Altnahara. But by Monday, Tuesday, the same place could experience temperatures up to 11, 12, 13 Celsius. So a marked temperature increase here. And just want to show a bit more detail on the minimum temperatures for tonight, because let's skip forward to Saturday morning and run my pen across the screen. I'm not sure if this will pick up the absolute lowest. Ooh, hang on. Got a minus 15
what
there.
We got minus 15. Good.
Yeah,
good
that
find.
sounds reasonable. That sounds what we are expecting in some of the colder spots across northern England. There's a minus 16. Oof. Just straight past it. So minus 1 to minus 3 fairly widely, but the possibility of -15, -16, -17 for snow-covered parts of northern England and Scotland. And so that, if those temperatures are picked up, of course, by the network of temperature reporting stations, that would be, again, the coldest temperature of this spell and the coldest temperature, or the lowest temperature for some time. But look at these minimum temperatures in the west. 1 there for Belfast, 5 for Plymouth. That's the milder air that's coming in, and we can just show that on this 4 up here. So for the rest of Friday, beautiful sunny skies for much of the country. Enjoy the apricity out there. Alex did a video on TikTok explaining what apricity is, but basically it's the feeling of the warmth of the sun on a cold winter's day. That's exactly what you're going to get across much of Scotland, central and eastern England, north and east Wales for the rest of Friday. But it's quite cloudy down here in Devon at the moment. We've got patchy rain, a few flakes of snow perhaps over Dartmoor. Now skipping forward to Saturday morning, and we've got weather systems trying to move in from the west. High pressure holding on, the cold air holding on in most places. So these are the kinds of temperatures at 10 a.m. Again, widely below freezing at this stage. A few freezing fog patches for the Midlands, eastern England, persisting in places into the afternoon. But again, another day of apricity, I think, in the east. Cloudier skies for western Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales and southwest England. Patchy rain moving in. If this occurs over the hills of Wales, southwest and west Scotland, a few flakes of snow, but compared with what we've seen in places this week, small beer really. And then that's going to tend to fizzle away somewhat before another push later in the weekend. Let's just fast forward that there to Sunday, so that just ends up as an area of cloud passing through. Sunday morning's another cold start in many places, but mostly towards the east, milder air coming into the west. And this is how it looks into next week. We've got high pressure to the south or southeast of the UK. Look at the isobars there for the north of the UK. Tightening isobars, the winds coming from the southwest, increasing in strength by Monday morning, and rain, not snow, just rain, moving into Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England. And those temperatures, Monday morning, double figures across Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northwest England. Still quite chilly in the east and southeast, but there's the change by the start of next week. And one final thing to mention is that, of course, with that rapid return to mild air across northern parts of the UK by the end of the weekend, these are the kinds of snow depths that we've still got at midday on Sunday. But if we fast forward a little bit to Monday morning, you can see Monday evening that snow's very quickly disappearing, so that could cause some issues across parts of Scotland. We've got the rain moving in early next week, and we've also got rapidly thawing snow adding to the water that's going to come down from the mountains and into the rivers and so on.
Quite lucky in some ways. You see where the snow is there, mostly, as you can imagine, north, facing the north, because that's where the showers have come from. When the rain comes in, it is going to be more across western parts. So the rain not necessarily tying in exactly with where the snow is lying at its deepest, which is good news, because if they were to combine, that would obviously generate more wet weather with the combination of the rain and the snow. So that's something that the guys are looking at really closely at the moment across Scotland, how much rain we'll see, coupled with that snowmelt, because it could cause some problems. And here at the Met Office, constantly in touch with SEPA about details around that, and that's something they'll be watching as we go through next week. So yeah, getting very mild by Tuesday with the Fern effect across parts of Scotland. So temperatures really on the rise. Quick question from Infringe Fun. I'd like to visit my grandma this weekend to see how she's getting on with the cold weather. Good point. If you do have relatives, elderly relatives, particularly in this cold weather, it's always worth checking up on them. Lots of good advice about how to stay warm on the Met Office website. If you look up Weather Ready, how to be prepared for the winter. But wants to know, driving from East Devon to Worcester on Saturday or Sunday, what's the weather going to be like?
On Saturday and Sunday?
Saturday or Sunday, so maybe he's got the option.
I don't think there'll be many issues with driving from Devon to Worcester Saturday, Sunday. It's going to be fairly cloudy. Here's Saturday. That's at lunchtime. Quite cloudy as you leave Devon, perhaps some brightness as you head towards Worcester.
Could be some fog. I was going to say, by the time you get up to Worcestershire, could be some fog around, couldn't there?
Yeah, could be some fog. Watch out for that. But no real wintry weather to think about. I don't think there'll be, unless you leave early on, and could be still some icy patches here and there. Otherwise, by the afternoon, actually, it's fairly decent. Similar on Sunday, patchy cloud around, but otherwise it's mostly dry. It's turning a little milder by then, but not significantly, 3 to 5 Celsius.
Citrus blasts, how long, he actually says how ping will the mild weather last, but then corrects himself, says long. How long will the mild weather last?
Well, good news or bad news, depending on your point of view, it's likely to last for some time. We'll go into more of this later on when we look at the new tools for forecasting the medium range, but once we get into that mild air, we've got westerlies, and in fact it's just going to get increasingly mild through next week, and there are no signs of anything significantly colder arriving, although it's not necessarily constantly mild for the week after next. I'll explain why later on.
Oak Before Ash, loving the live shows. Thank you, Oak Before Ash. Thank you for all your lovely comments. In fact, Andrew Watson, again, we've covered this kind of with the mild air coming in as it hits the cold air. Can we expect snow? I mean, the short answer is no, because it's actually warming up gradually, isn't it? There's a weak front coming in, bringing weak precipitation on Saturday, and that lifts the temperature initially before we get the heavier stuff coming in. So temperatures will rise before the real precipitation gets in. So Andrew Watson. Wild Violet says, hiya guys. What is the temperature going to be in the East Riding of Yorkshire, my homeland, on the coast of near Hornsey? Is it too cold for dog walking? Wild is my name and Violet is my dog's name. So Wild and Violet. So the dog is also asking. Violet is a good name for a dog.
Let's see. So Saturday, Sunday. That
doesn't specify. I'm guessing today or over the course of the weekend.
Let's see. This shows the trend for the next couple of days, and in this general area, what you can see is temperatures overnight -2, -3. By day, 1 or 2 Celsius at best. That's today and tomorrow. You can see that increase by day and decrease to those minus figures by night. But it's dry. It's sunny, light winds. So actually, it's the kind of cold weather that is reasonably manageable. If you wrap up warm for a dog walk, it's quite pleasant. Feel that apricity. Do
dogs feel apricity?
They love it. They love it.
Yeah, but do they feel it because they're so hairy? Do they actually feel the apricity? There's a question.
Well, if you watch a dog lying in the sunny patch of the garden, panting away, you they're enjoying that apricity.
That is true. That is true.
They feel it on their nose.
Yeah.
Highly sensitive part of their body. This is Saturday, Sunday. A little bit less cold Sunday, not significantly, 3 or 4. By the time you get to Monday, look at that, up to 6, 7 Celsius. 10, 11 by Tuesday, so yeah,
it's going to be lovely
week.
Actually in Hornsey. Lovely part of the world to be in anyway. Not that I'm biased, but yeah, it's going to be cracking there because it'll be cold and sunny over the weekend, and then just grey to get milder, but stay generally sunny into next week. So enjoy that. Top tip: if you're taking your dog out for a walk in the cold weather, take a towel with you so you can wipe its paws in case it gets salt on it from where people have been gritting. So there's a top tip, and that was in my video about weather hacks, which is also on our TikTok channel, so you can watch that.
Or put socks on them.
Yeah, you could, but just
the other dogs would laugh.
Yeah, the other dogs might take the mickey, so that's not ideal. Mike Fletcher, 2024 warmest year on record. Was that the case in the UK? Good question, Mike. Yeah, loads of stats have been released today about the global temperature for 2024. Various different organisations published their data. A lot of them have published today. We've published ours today. It was the warmest year on record globally. Asking about the UK, no, our stats show that it was the 4th warmest year on record for the UK. Published those stats just after the new year. So for the UK, it was the 4th warmest, but the top 4 warmest, or 3 of the top 4 warmest have been the last 3 years, and all the top 10 warmest years in the UK have been since 2000. For the globe, it was the warmest, and the top 10 warmest years on record around the globe have been the past 10 years. So yeah, loads of stats on that. There's a Met Office press release about that as well. Loads of interesting facts around that. So yeah, it was another very, very warm year last year globally. And while we're on the subject of climate change, and we talked about it earlier, those wildfires, there is a paper about how wildfires are increasing around the globe. I think we can put the link in the chat if you're interested in that. Not specific to the LA wildfires, this is globally. Some of our scientists here at the Met Office were involved in a paper that was published. I think it was published last year as well. So again, we'll put the link in there about how wildfires are increasing around the world because of global warming. And yet the stats out today, just confirming what we already know, that it was another very, very warm year. And the predictions for this year, 2025, also likely to be in the top 3 warmest years on record. Budgie Gal 07. Oh, this is a tricky one to answer, isn't it? When will the snow melt in Halifax? It's really bad. How much have you got, Budgie Gal? Be interesting to know exactly how much you've got, but yeah, because it's not a question of just the temperatures getting above freezing, the snow disappears, is it? There's a few factors involved in that, but it will get milder.
It will get milder. There'll be some sublimation of the snow as well, of course. That's where the snow transforms from solid water, ice.
It's weird to say solid water.
It basically evaporates, but without going through liquid. Halifax, still some snow around, even on Sunday morning, because it's going to stay cold through the weekend. But then it very quickly, Sunday night into Monday, you can start, well, I'm probably standing in the way there, but you can see there it's just all disappearing early next week. So still some snow to play about in this weekend, but then by early next week it's pretty much disappearing.
Right, can you hit the like button if you're watching and enjoying this? That would be great. Give it the thumbs up down below. But I think it's time. Do you think it's time? I think it's time for the quiz, everybody. So it's going to be based on cold themes. Okay. So this is the quiz. If you've not been involved in the quiz before, we'll put the questions in the chat so you can answer them yourself. They're multi-choice. Just have a go. It's a bit of fun. Aidan will ping his answers to me. He's not cheating. He's not looking it up on Google. Are you? No,
not this time.
Very honest. So yeah, 5 questions, multi-choice, just a bit of fun. Have a bit of a go. Everyone loves a quiz. This week's weather quiz is based around frozen precipitation, wintry weather, generally speaking, as we are almost at the halfway point of winter. Of course.
Brilliant. Next week, isn't it?
It will be next week. I'm going to say it's 15th of January. It won't be the 15th, will it? Because February's shorter than the other 2 months. So it's probably something like that. It might even be
13th,
Sunday.
14th.
Yeah, with the actual midpoint of winter. Because winter, we measure winter as the 3 months of December, January and February. Right, question 1. Which part of the UK was the most disastrous avalanche ever recorded in the UK? It occurred in 1836.
I know this.
I thought you would. So is it in A, Gwynedd, B, Ayrshire, C, the Cairngorms, or D, East Sussex? Where was the most disastrous avalanche in the UK? It occurred in 1836. 8 fatalities. That most disastrous is a quote from The Guardian. That's so if you're wondering how we compare these things, but there. Where was the most disastrous avalanche in the UK that occurred in 1836? Gwynedd, Ayrshire, Cairngorms, East Sussex. Put your answers in the chat. We should be able to do a little poll in there so you can answer in there. Play along at home.
Can I just add something to that? It's not giving away the answer, but there's now a pub where that avalanche occurred called the Snowdrop Inn.
Oh, good knowledge. Good knowledge. Right, you are confident then in question 1. That's good. Question 2. Diamond dust.
I love that. I've seen it in person.
You?
Yeah.
Oh, it must have been cold. Typically, how low does the temperature have to fall for the formation of diamond dust? Is it -10, -20, -30, or -40 degrees Celsius? And it can occur almost anywhere below freezing. But what typically, and this is based on the Met Office Learn About Weather video around diamond dust.
I'll tell you what I would say though. I've seen it a couple of times. And although I've put an answer there, I've seen it at a higher temperature than that.
Okay.
So
it
it's
can
not.
Occur.
I don't think it's strict.
So it's definitely not strict. But according to the Learn About Weather Met Office channel, and what's temperature do you need to get to form diamond dust? -10, -20, -30 or -40? Again, playing along at home. Get your answers in. Where did you see it, by the way? In the UK?
Lapland.
Lapland.
Yeah.
Question 3. Another pub-based question.
Brilliant.
How high up above sea level is the highest pub in the UK? The Tan Hill Inn. It's been in the papers and in the press and across the media this week because there was another snow in. So the Tan Hill Inn is the highest pub in the UK. But how high up above sea level is it? 528 metres, 628 metres, 728 metres or 828 metres? Put your answer in. It's in metres. How high up above sea level is the highest pub in the UK? It'd be nice to have a lock in there, wouldn't it? They're just having parties all week.
Do you think people, when there's a snow warning now,
just go to the pub?
Go to the pub, hoping that they'll be locked in.
That would be good, wouldn't it?
It's an idea for next time. Not advising it. Not at all advising that.
Looking at some of the answers. Question 2, 40% going for -20. Mermaids of Star saying -30. Lee Johnson says no idea. Just have a guess, Lee. Just have a guess. Just a bit of fun. Just a bit of fun. Right, yeah. Answers to that question. How high is the highest pub in the UK? Let us know if you've ever been, actually. I want to go there.
I've been.
Have you?
Yeah. Not in the snow, but I've been just on a nice day.
For a beer. Nice. It's in North Yorkshire. I should have been, shouldn't I? I'm from Yorkshire. I've never been there. Question 4. What is the lowest daily maximum temperature for January recorded in the UK?
Ooh,
ever recorded
tough.
in the UK? So we got to -27.2. That's someone was asking actually what the lowest temperature ever recorded in the UK. Well, it's officially the lowest minimum is -27.2, and that's happened a few times.
It's happened on every month of the winter. That same value.
In December, January, and February. But I'm asking, what is the lowest daily maximum? So temperature as a maximum. What's the lowest value ever recorded in the UK for January? It's not the lowest max ever. That was in December. But for the January one, is it -13, -15, -17, or -19? That's question 4. What is the lowest daily maximum temperature? So get your answers in. Keep them coming. George is running the poll. Good work with the poll, George. Thank you for doing that. Now, you've given me an answer there that isn't one of the options.
Okay.
-13, -15, -17, -19.
Okay.
Right, your answer is in. It's locked in.
Was it Shawbury by any chance? Or for some reason that's in my head.
I shall search it up. Because I thought I had it open, but I don't have it open. Well, I'll find it in a second.
Don't worry about it.
And the final question. We are almost halfway through winter. We talked about this briefly the other day, you and I. So far in this winter, do you think we are wetter or drier than average across the UK?
I looked at the map earlier, but it was a map.
The map's
so
not used for you. Yeah.
It was showing some places wetter, some places drier. So now I'm thinking, were there more that were drier?
So this is just an A or a B.
So is it wetter than average up to this point?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, the graphs that we track for the so far. Is it wetter than average or drier than average across the UK so far this winter? That's question 5. That's the last question in this week's quiz. We'll go through the answers in a second, but keep them coming.
I like the way it started and then it got a bit, heights of pubs. Coldest temperature in January. Okay.
Yeah, you've got it. It's a broad church, our quiz. Statistically, which is the coldest day of the year, Gary Broadbent is asking. We don't really do day records, do we?
No, but I remember looking into this, and I haven't got it exactly, but there are 2 dips from the long-term record. When you look at a graph of the whole year, there's something like 2 dips around the winter. This is going to be really vague because it's just from memory. And one of the dips I know is around the 13th, 14th of February. Another dip around the end of January, I believe, something like that.
Is that something to do with Valentine's Day? And
I'll have a look.
Everyone being let down by not reciprocated love. everyone gets a bit
Maybe
sad.
that's why Valentine's Day is on that day,
to warm us all up, perhaps. Yeah, that's interesting.
Bear with me. I'll bring up the graph here. I'll be able to actually tell you.
This is live, high-level geekery going on as we speak. This is what the Weather Studio Live is all about. This is why you tune in. Spread the word, by the way. Let everyone know that this kind of fun happens every Friday on the Met Office Live. And yeah, do hit the subscribe button and hit the like button as well. That would be great if you could boost those numbers. That's what we love doing this. So yeah, we want to keep doing it, and spreading the love, getting the numbers up really, really is helpful. Speaking of which, almost 5 to 1, so we better get a move on, get these answers to the pub quiz, because we've got not a pub quiz, it's just
a quiz about pubs.
A quiz about pubs a little bit. We've still got to talk through your new funky graphics. So question 1, where was the most disastrous avalanche in the UK in 1836? 8 fatalities, and bizarrely, it happened in East Sussex, not across the mountainous regions further north or west. So yeah, it was East Sussex. Question 1, and extra bonus stat now, a pub called, what was it, Snowdrop Inn?
Snowdrop Inn, yeah.
Good knowledge. Question 2, how low does the temperature have to get for the formation of diamond dust to form? You were close, but it's actually minus 30, according to the Met Office Learn About Weather Channel.
That's nonsense. I said minus 20. That's what I was taught in Met Office College.
Well, I was surprised.
But I've experienced it at higher temperatures than that. I've experienced it at sort of like minus 15, minus 16. So yeah, I guess it depends on a lot of different factors.
Yeah, I think that's
it's very pretty though. It's like a glitter is surrounding you in the atmosphere. It's very
just
nice.
Ice crystals suspended in the air. Beautiful. Question 3, how high up is the Tan Hill Inn, highest pub in the UK, where there was a snow in this week? Answer was A, 528 metres. You went for 728. 528 was the right answer. What is the lowest daily maximum temperature for January recorded in the UK? Minus 13.
Okay.
So yeah, minus 13 is the answer to that one. 1982. And so far this winter, are we wetter or drier than average? Very close run thing. If you follow the graph from the start of December, from the start of meteorological winter, it's been very close all the way. It's unusual. Normally you get wet spells and dry spells. But actually, we are very close to, but slightly above. So you're right. It is slightly wetter than average so far. Was that 2 out of 5?
Yeah.
That's all right. 40%. That's solid.
Disappointing.
Well, yeah, they were tough. They were tough questions. Let us know how you did. Lichter got 4 out of 5. Riley G, 0 out of 5. Riley G, come on. Next week. Black Void XX, 1 out of 5. Whoop. Stephen Lee, 4 out of 5. Well done. Rachel, 2 out of 5. Wild Violets. Wild and Violet. 3 out of 5. Good work. Simon J, 0. Come on, Simon. Next week you can do better. Not seeing any 5 out of 5, so if you got 4 out of 5, you can consider yourself this week's champion, joint champion. So very well done. Thank you for all your contributions. Thanks for being involved. Right, have we got time to...
Yeah, it's not going to take me 40 minutes this time.
Talk one more time about the new funky graphics, because they are excellent.
Yeah, basically, in a nutshell, these graphics allow us to show the most likely weather patterns when you look ahead, well, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks into the future, and it does that by dividing the typical weather patterns that we experience in the UK, like the Scandinavian high or the extension of the Azores high. There are 30 different categories that have been defined by Rob Neal here at the Met Office and his team, and it's very clever. But basically, when you look further ahead, there are lots of different computer model runs, and this tool summarises 259 computer model runs, assigns a weather pattern to each of those runs for each day. And this graph here summarises it, so the colours represent different weather patterns. And at the moment, we're in this kind of weather pattern. So we've got this high pressure but cold across the UK. This is showing temperature anomaly. Of course, in reality, the temperature at the moment is even lower than that. But this is coming through as the most likely weather pattern for much of next week. This orange colour, it's high pressure centred over the UK, more specifically high pressure centred to the south. Now in reality, because these weather patterns, there's 30 of them, there's a bit of detail that we need to add as meteorologists, and one of them is that by the time we get to Wednesday, for example, yeah, that's the most likely weather pattern, but this is coming through as an also likely weather pattern with higher pressure further south and a stronger westerly airflow across the UK and above average temperatures widely. Now, in reality, I think it's going to be somewhere in between the two of them. So high pressure just to the south of the UK throughout next week. So to the south or just to the south and a westerly airflow. This is throughout next week. That would lead to cloudy skies for many, particularly in the west, outbreaks of rain, particularly in the west and northwest, and much milder than it's been. And that's throughout next week. Now, beyond that, you can see quite a selection of colours, and that's for two reasons. One is, of course, when you get to next weekend and beyond, the uncertainty increases. That's perfectly normal. But actually, this shows more uncertainty than we are talking about at the moment. And that's because there'll be a big day-to-day variability by the time we get to next weekend. So through next week, up to Friday, high pressure to the south, westerlies, quite a consistent weather pattern. From the weekend after, it's likely to become very changeable. And basically, that high pressure sinks south further, and we get something like this, not that one. Let's click on that one, or that one. So low pressure tracking through to the north of the UK. There's another pattern where it shows low pressure to the north and northwest. Essentially, it looks likely that with high pressure pushing further and further south, the jet stream comes a bit further south, it's going to be active, and we're going to get very changeable weather patterns for that following week. So low pressure moving through, bands of rain moving through, one day mild, next day cold. So someone asked about how long this mild spell is going to last and when it will turn colder. No sign of a prolonged cold spell like we've just experienced, but after next week's prolonged mild spell, the following week, because the weather's going to be so changeable with lows moving through, weather fronts moving through, we're going to get mild and then cold and then mild and then cold, chopping and changing each day, spells of rain, stronger winds and so on. Back to much more unsettled weather.
Yeah, back to much more kind of typical stuff. Right, if you want more on that, Aidan's deep dive went into a lot of detail. He said at the start, it is, you can see it there, look. And we'll put the link in the chat as well, so you can link out to it straight after this. It does last an hour, but I said you can skip forward the first 20 minutes because that is talking about this week's weather, which has kind of been and gone now. You can watch it if you want, but the juicy bit about the new stuff with Rob comes in, doesn't he, and talks about the development of it, how it came about. There's loads more on it, and that's in this week's deep dive. We'll put the link in the chat. I talked about some of those graphics as well a little bit in the 10-day trend, which you can watch. Much on this weekend into next week?
Let's see. Into next week, yeah, we're going to be talking a bit more about these graphics and also developing more tools to showcase them. And yeah, it's all about the milder weather and the snow melts, the rainy stuff.
Yeah. You doing the deep dive next week? No, I think Alex Burkle is doing the deep dive next week, so that'll be interesting to watch as well. So yeah, thank you for being there. Yorkshire Biker, are there any prizes for the quiz? Sadly not.
Respectability,
and you get some free...
I haven't got that yet.
You get some one day. You get some free weather as well over the course of the weekend. So enjoy that, Yorkshire Bike. You're going to have some decent weather actually in Yorkshire as well, although maybe a bit too slippery tomorrow morning to be out on your bike, Yorkshire Biker. So maybe wait till Sunday for the temperatures to rise for that. More stuff to watch as well, ensemble video. If you don't really understand what ensembles are, there's an explainer video we made a couple of months ago. Again, we'll put that in the chat, explaining what ensembles are. So there's more information about what they are if you watch that video as well. But that's about it, I think, for this week. Thank you very much for being there. Just tipped over past 1 o'clock, but you know, who's counting? So yeah, thank you very much for being there. Do hit that like button and share the love. If you're not watching it live, you can still ask us questions. Please put the comments in. Let us know what you think about it. Let us know if there's anything else you'd like us to include in these Weather Studio Lives, because we do go back through them. We may well answer your question next week if you've got a question and you put it in the chat. That's a good way, because we get so many comments during the lives. It's sometimes hard to keep up. So actually, you're more likely to get your question answered if you answer it in the chat once it's been posted.
Or the comments, yeah.
In the comments, yeah, that's what I meant. Okay, good stuff. Have a lovely weekend. Stay warm. And enjoy the weather this weekend.
We'll see you later.
We will see you soon.
Bye-bye.